The airlock hissed shut behind Lieutenant Marcus Flynn, and every light on the residential deck turned red. Attention. Quarantine protocol initiated. All personnel remain in assigned quarters. Duration, 72 hours. Marcus froze in the corridor outside his compartment. Through the translucent door panel, he could see movement. His roommate, Kyra, was pacing. The Velothi exchange officer moved in tight circles, her iridescent skin shifting through colors he'd never seen before, deep purples bleeding into gold, then flashing to crimson. "Flynn, get in here!" Her voice cracked through the intercom, higher pitched than usual. He palmed the entry pad. The door slid open, and immediate heat rolled over him like a physical wave. The temperature inside had to be pushing 90 degrees. Kyra spun to face him. Her large eyes dilated until they were nearly black. The crystalline patterns along her neck and shoulders pulsed with bioluminescence. "Close it." "Now." Marcus stepped inside. The door sealed behind him with a magnetic clunk that felt far too final. "What's happening? Why is it so hot and—" "Breeding cycle." Kyra's hands trembled as she gripped the edge of their shared desk. It wasn't supposed to happen for another month. The solar flare. It triggered early. Marcus's stomach dropped. He'd read the cultural briefings. Velothi didn't experience heat cycles like Earth animals. This was different. Neurochemical. Inevitable. And according to the files, absolutely agonizing without proper medical intervention. Okay, we call medical. Though the station's on lockdown because of radiation exposure from the flare. Kyra's voice was strained. "No one's coming. No one can come." The residential computer chimed. 71 hours, 57 minutes remaining. Marcus watched as Kyra's legs nearly buckled. She caught herself against the wall, breathing hard. The heat was getting worse, sweat already soaked through his uniform collar. "There has to be something," he said. "Medication, a protocol. There is." Kyra looked at him, and for the first time since they'd been assigned as roommates 6 months ago, she looked genuinely afraid. "Close physical contact, skin to skin. It regulates the neurochemical surge. Without it, my nervous system will overload. I'll stroke out in about 12 hours. "Physical contact," Marcus repeated slowly. "Continuous, for the entire duration." She was shaking now, her bioluminescence flickering erratically. The briefings didn't cover this because it's not supposed to happen off-world. "I'm so sorry, Flynn. I'm so sorry." The temperature spiked another 5 degrees. Red warning lights painted everything the color of emergency. Marcus pulled off his jacket. "Then we don't have time to waste." Kyra's eyes widened. "You don't understand what you're agreeing to. I understand you'll die if I don't." He moved closer. "So tell me what to do." Kyra's breath came in short bursts. "The couch. We need to establish contact before the next wave hits." Marcus guided her to the narrow station-issue sofa. The moment his hand touched her arm, she gasped. Her skin felt like heated glass, smooth and radiating warmth that traveled up through his palm. "It's going to get worse," she said. "The cycle peaks every 6 hours. Between peaks, I'll be semi-lucid. During them, I won't be myself. Define won't be yourself. Aggressive. Desperate. I might hurt you without meaning to." Her fingers dug into his shoulders as another tremor ran through her. "Velothi are stronger than humans. If I lose control, we'll figure it out." Marcus settled beside her, acutely aware of every point where their bodies connected. "Just tell me what helps." Kyra pressed against him, her head tucking under his chin. The bioluminescent patterns on her skin brightened, then slowly began to dim. Her breathing evened out slightly. This, body heat exchange, heartbeat synchronization. She was quiet for a moment. "Thank you for not running." "Where would I go? We're locked in. You could have stayed on the other side of the room. Let me suffer through it." Her voice dropped to barely a whisper. "Most humans would." Marcus tightened his grip. Then most humans are cowards. The computer announced another hour passed. 69 remaining. Kaya shifted, her legs tangling with his. The heat radiating from her core was intense, but not unbearable. Yet, Flynn, I need you to promise me something. What? If I try to hurt you during a peak, if I actually become dangerous, you'll use the emergency sedative in the med kit. Lock me in the bathroom and wait it out. That would kill you. You said you need constant contact. Better me than both of us. She pulled back enough to look at him. Her eyes had shifted to a deep amber, alien and beautiful and terrified. Promise me. Before he could answer, her entire body went rigid. The bioluminescence flared white-hot. She made a sound between a gasp and a scream, hands clutching at him with enough force to bruise. First peak, she managed through clenched teeth. It's starting. Marcus held on as she convulsed against him. Her skin temperature spiked so fast he felt like he was holding burning metal. She twisted, trying to get closer, trying to merge with him entirely, her strength suddenly overwhelming. Kyra, easy, I've got you. She wasn't hearing him. Her eyes had gone completely black, pupils blown wide. She grabbed his shirt and tore it open with one violent motion, buttons scattering across the floor. Her hands pressed flat against his bare chest, and she made a sound of pure relief. The temperature in the room hit triple digits. Marcus fought to control his breathing as Kyra climbed fully into his lap, wrapping around him like a vice. Her face pressed into his neck, and he felt her mouth open against his pulse point, not biting. Just contact connection. Closer, she whispered, the word barely human. Need closer. He shifted, pulling her tighter, one hand spreading across her back while the other cradled her head. She was burning against him, every inch of exposed skin scorching, but he didn't let go. Minutes stretched into eternity. The peak held her in its grip, her body shaking with the neurochemical storm raging through her system. Marcus counted his heartbeats, focused on keeping his breathing steady, trying to be an anchor in her chaos. Gradually, incrementally, she began to calm. The rigidity left her muscles. The bioluminescence faded from blinding white to a soft golden glow. Kyra collapsed against him, boneless and exhausted. 5 more of those, she breathed against his skin. At least 5 more. Marcus looked at the time display. 67 hours and change remaining. He settled back against the couch, adjusting his grip on her, and prepared for the longest 3 days of his life. Outside, through the small viewport, the solar flare continued to rage across the station's shields in waves of deadly radiation. Inside, the real survival had just begun. The second peak hit 4 hours later without warning. Marcus had dozed off, still holding Kyra, when she suddenly seized. Her claws, he hadn't even known she had retractable claws, extended and dug into his shoulders. He bit back a yell as she reared up, her face inches from his. Wrong, she hissed. The word came out distorted, her vocal cords restructuring mid-syllable. Still wrong, not enough. She grabbed his wrists and pinned them above his head with one hand. The other tore at his remaining clothes with mechanical precision. Marcus's heart hammered as she stripped him down to his shorts, her movements frantic but deliberate. Kyra, wait, can't wait. Dying, system failing. Her weight pressed him flat against the couch. Need full contact, all of it. Now, her skin had shifted texture, becoming almost scale-like across her arms and torso. The patterns weren't just glowing anymore, they were moving, flowing across her body like living rivers of light. She positioned herself over him, every inch of her front pressed against his, and the relief that flooded her face was immediate. Marcus forced himself to breathe. Professional distance had evaporated somewhere around hour 3. This was pure survival biology now. Better? He managed. Kyra didn't answer with words. She buried her face against his chest and wrapped herself around him completely, her legs locking behind his back. The heat was incredible. Sweat poured off both of them, pooling on the synthetic couch material. The peak lasted 37 minutes. When it finally broke, Kyra went limp. Marcus carefully shifted her weight, his shoulders screaming from where her claws had punctured skin. Blood trickled down his back in thin streams. "I hurt you." Her voice was small, horrified. She pulled back enough to see the damage. "Oh, Flynn, I'm so sorry." "It's fine, Shallow." He tried to sit up, but she was still wrapped around him like a python. "Can you, no?" She shook her head. "If I break contact between peaks, the next one will be worse. We have to stay connected. For 63 more hours?" "Yes." Marcus closed his eyes and did the math. 11 more peaks. Probably worse than the first 2. His body was already exhausted, muscles aching from being her anchor point during the convulsions. "There's water in the mini-fridge," he said. "We should hydrate." Kyra nodded against his chest. She shifted carefully, maintaining maximum skin contact as she stretched one arm toward the small refrigeration unit. Her flexibility was unsettling. She contorted at angles that would have broken human bones, retrieved 2 water pouches, and flowed back into position without ever fully separating from him. They drank in silence. The water was gone in seconds. "The third peak will be different," Kyra said quietly. "Worse." "How worse?" "I'll need more than passive contact. I'll need reciprocation, active participation." She wouldn't meet his eyes. "The neurochemical cascade requires feedback loops. Your body has to respond to mine, or the regulation fails." Marcus processed that. "You're saying I'll have to match my movements, mirror my responses. Engage, not just endure." Her bioluminescence flickered with what he was learning to recognize as shame. "I'll essentially be using you as a living stabilization system. It's going to be intimate, Flynn, more intimate than anything in your cultural context, but not sexual. No. It mimics aspects of it because the biology overlaps, but this is medical, clinical. If I had another Velity here, we'd do the exact same thing and it would mean nothing beyond treatment." She finally looked at him. "Does that distinction matter to you?" Marcus thought about it. About the briefings that had warned against cross-species complications, about the regulations prohibiting fraternization, about the fact that none of those rules had anticipated a solar flare and a faulty cycle trigger and 72 hours of mandatory quarantine.
"It matters," he said.
"And I understand. Whatever you need, Kyra." "I'm here." She relaxed slightly. "You're a good man. I'm a man who doesn't want his roommate to die. Same thing." The temperature spiked again. Kyra's eyes dilated. Her breathing quickened. "Third peak," she whispered. "It's coming." "Flynn, remember, this isn't me. Whatever happens, whatever I do or say, it's the cycle talking, not me." "Understood." Her pupil swallowed the amber entirely. Her hands moved to frame his face, claws retracted this time. When she spoke, her voice carried harmonics that vibrated through his chest. "Then hold on." The third peak crashed over them like a tidal wave, and Marcus discovered exactly what reciprocation meant. Hour 36 brought complications. Marcus woke to find Kyra shivering violently despite the oppressive heat. Her bioluminescence had faded to barely visible flickers, and her skin had taken on an ashen tone he'd never seen before. Something's wrong. He touched her face. She was burning hotter than ever, but the tremors were different. Erratic. "Kyra, talk to me." Her eyes opened halfway. Toxin buildup. "The neurochemicals. Without proper filtration, they accumulate. I need to purge or my organs will shut down." "How do you purge?" "Water, massive amounts, and electrolytes." She struggled to focus. "Station rations won't be enough. We need the emergency supplies." Marcus looked toward the storage locker across the room. 10 feet away. Might as well have been 10 miles. "If I let go, I'll crash hard. But I'll crash harder if we do nothing." Kyra pushed herself up slightly. 30 seconds. "You have 30 seconds before the separation triggers a cascade." Marcus moved. He rolled off the couch, sprinted to the locker, punched in the code with shaking hands. The door swung open. Inside were medical supplies, nutrient packs, hydration tablets. He grabbed everything, spun back. 20 seconds. Kyra was convulsing on the couch, her body curling into itself. The bioluminescence strobed wildly, throwing seizure-inducing patterns across the walls. Marcus dove back to her, gathering her against him. She latched on immediately, her grip crushing. Her whole body was locked up, muscles rigid as steel. Got it. I got it. He tore open a hydration pack with his teeth, held it to her lips. Drink. She couldn't. Her jaw was clenched too tight. Marcus made a split-second decision. He drank the electrolyte solution himself, then pressed his mouth to hers, letting the liquid transfer. She swallowed reflexively, some primal part of her brain still functioning. He repeated the process 4 more times until the pack was empty. Gradually, the seizure eased. Kyra's muscles unlocked. She gasped against his mouth, drawing in desperate breaths. Again, she whispered, "More." They went through 6 packs. One day, by the 4th, Kyra was conscious enough to drink on her own, though Marcus had to hold the pouches because her hands wouldn't stop shaking. "Better?" he asked when the last one was empty. "Enough to survive, not enough to stop what's coming." She pressed her forehead to his. "The peaks are going to intensify. My body's trying to complete the cycle faster because it knows something's wrong. The next one might be violent. More violent than the claws? Yes." Marcus checked his shoulders. The punctures had scabbed over, but they'd reopened during the last peak. Fresh blood painted his skin. He had bruises forming across his ribs where she'd held on too tight. His muscles felt shredded. 58 hours remaining. We need a better position, he said. The couch isn't working. Too unstable. Kyra nodded weakly. Floor. More surface area. Less chance I'll throw you off. They relocated, maintaining contact the entire time. Marcus pulled the cushions down to create padding, then settled onto his back. Kyra positioned herself on top of him, her full weight distributed across his torso. "I'm too heavy," she protested. "You're fine." He wrapped his arms around her. "Save your strength." They lay there in the oppressive heat, breathing in sync. The station hummed around them, oblivious to their struggle. Through the viewport, Marcus could see other residential modules, lights on in some, others dark. He wondered if anyone else was fighting similar battles, or if this particular hell was uniquely theirs. "Flynn," Kyra said softly, "after this is over, I'm requesting a transfer." His chest tightened. "You don't have to. I do. This will change everything between us. We won't be able to go back to casual roommates after I've used you like a life support system for 3 days. Her voice cracked. "I won't put you through the awkwardness. You deserve better." "What if I don't want you to transfer?" She lifted her head, surprised. "Why wouldn't you?" "Because you're the best roommate I've ever had. You keep the place clean, you don't blast music at midnight, and you actually laugh at my terrible jokes." He managed a tired smile. And because after this, I'll know I can trust you with my life. That's worth more than avoiding awkward conversations." Kyra stared at him. Something shifted in her expression, something beyond the cycle's influence. Before she could respond, her body locked up again. 4th peak. Exactly on schedule. This time, when she grabbed him, Marcus was ready. He'd learned her patterns, anticipated her movements. When she needed resistance, he provided it. When she needed him to yield, he did. They moved together like a complicated dance, no music except the rhythm of survival. The peak lasted 40 minutes. When it ended, Kyra was crying. Not from pain, from exhaustion, from gratitude, from the crushing weight of what she was putting him through. "I'm still not transferring," Marcus said quietly. Despite everything, she laughed. It was a broken, desperate sound, but it was real. Outside, the solar flare finally began to weaken. Inside, they held on and counted down the hours. Hour 48 marked the turning point. Kaira's body had adapted. The peaks still came with brutal regularity, but the intervals between had stabilized. Her temperature had dropped from dangerously high to merely uncomfortable. The bioluminescent patterns had settled into a steady rhythm, pulsing in time with Marcus's heartbeat. "It's working," she murmured against his chest. "Your body's teaching mine how to regulate." "I can feel the synchronization." Marcus flexed his fingers carefully. Everything hurt. His back was a tapestry of scratches and bruises. His shoulders throbbed where her claws had found purchase during the worst peaks. He was pretty sure he'd pulled something in his ribs. But he was alive, and so was she. "How many more?" he asked. 3 peaks, maybe 4. Kaira shifted slightly, trying to redistribute her weight without breaking contact. "The worst is over. The final peaks will be less intense, but longer duration. My system is starting the cool-down phase." The door chimed. Both of them froze. "Occupants of Residential Unit 743, this is Medical Officer Garrett Chen. Radiation levels have decreased to safe thresholds in this sector. We're conducting welfare checks. Please respond." Marcus looked at Kair. Her eyes were wide with panic. "If they come in," she whispered, "if they see us like this, Command will file an incident report. There'll be an investigation." "Your career—" "Lieutenant Flynn, respond please." Chen's voice came again. Marcus made a decision. "We're fine, Doc. Just writing out the lockdown. No medical emergencies." A pause. "Your biosigs are elevated, both of you. Heart rates, body temperature, stress hormones. I need visual confirmation of your status." Kaira's hands tightened on Marcus's arms. The bioluminescence spiked anxiously. "Negative on visual," Marcus said. "We're in a private situation." "Everything's under control." Another longer pause. Marcus could practically hear Chen running through possibilities on the other side of that door. "Lieutenant, I'm reading Velathy breeding cycle biomarkers. Is your roommate in active estrus?" The clinical term made it sound so much less desperate than it had been. "Affirmative," Marcus said. "And you've been providing contact stabilization for 48 hours. "Affirmative." Chen was quiet for so long, Marcus thought the connection had dropped. When he spoke again, his tone had shifted from professional concern to something closer to respect. "That's well beyond standard human endurance thresholds. How are you managing?" "Stubbornness, mostly." A sound that might have been a laugh. "Noted. I'm marking your unit as stable. You have 20 more hours remaining in quarantine. After that, both of you report to medical for evaluation." "Non-negotiable." "Understood. Thanks, Doc." The footsteps retreated down the corridor. Kaira let out a breath she'd been holding. He knows. Everyone will know. Let them know. Marcus ran his hand along her back, feeling the raised patterns of bioluminescence under his palm. "We didn't break any regulations. You had a medical emergency. I provided necessary treatment. That's it. Command won't see it that way. They'll assume, let them assume, we know the truth." She was quiet for a moment. "You really don't care what they think, do you?" "I care what you think. The rest is noise." Kaira lifted her head to look at him properly. The amber had returned to her eyes, clear and focused. "You're not what I expected when they assigned me a human roommate. What did you expect? Fear. Disgust. Clinical detachment at best." She touched his face carefully, mindful of her claws. "Instead, I got someone who held me through hell without flinching. Who gave up sleep and comfort and probably a layer of skin to keep me alive. Anyone would have—" "No, they wouldn't." Her voice was firm. "I've lived among humans for 2 years. Most would have called medical and let them handle it remotely, regulations or not. You stayed." The 5th peak interrupted the conversation. Kaira's eyes dilated again, but this time she didn't lose herself completely. She stayed present, aware even as her body went through the motions of the cycle. Marcus matched her movements, reading her needs through minute changes in tension and temperature. They'd developed a language beyond words, communication through pressure and proximity and breath. This peak lasted 67 minutes. When it ended, Kyra didn't collapse. She stayed conscious, her breathing heavy but controlled. That was different, Marcus observed. The bonding phase. My biology recognizes you now as a stable partner. She's trying to cement the connection. She hesitated. There are going to be lingering effects, even after the cycle ends. What kind of effects? Heightened awareness of each other. Instinctive protective responses. My people call it cycle bonding. It's not permanent, but it can last months. She met his eyes. It means I'll be able to sense your emotional state, your stress levels, pain, and you'll probably develop similar sensitivity to me. Marcus processed that, so we'll be linked. In a way, it fades with distance and time, but yes. For a while, we'll be connected beyond normal parameters. She looked worried. I should have warned you before we started. You should have had a choice. I had a choice. I chose to keep you alive. He brushed a strand of her hair back. Whatever comes after, we'll handle it. Kyra smiled. It was tired and strained, but genuine. You keep saying that like you believe it. I do. The station lights flickered. Power conservation mode kicking in as the solar flare's final waves passed through the system. 22 hours remaining, 2 more peaks to go. They could make it. The 6th peak arrived during hour 63, and with it came something unexpected. Kyra's bioluminescence exploded across her entire body in patterns Marcus had never seen. Not the chaotic strobing of crisis, but something deliberate. Intentional. The light painted the walls in flowing scripts that looked almost like written language. What is that? He asked. Genetic memory. Her voice was distant, layered with harmonics. The cycle unlocks ancestral patterns. Every Velathi who's bonded before me. Their experiences, encoded in light. The patterns shifted, reorganizing themselves. Marcus watched, transfixed, as the lights told stories he couldn't read but somehow understood on an instinctual level. Joy. Pain. Connection. Survival. Kyra's hands moved across his skin, tracing matching patterns. Where she touched, his nerves lit up, not with pain, but with something else. Information transfer. He was learning her language through sensation alone. Can you feel it? She whispered. The resonance. He could. His heartbeat had synchronized so completely with hers that he couldn't tell where his pulse ended and hers began. Every breath they took was coordinated. When she shifted, he moved in perfect counterpoint without thinking. This peak didn't hurt. It was intense, overwhelming, but not violent. Kyra remained lucid throughout, her eyes locked on his as her body worked through the cycle's demands. The connection between them deepened with every passing minute, becoming something neither of them had words for. The peak lasted 91 minutes. When it finally released them, they lay tangled together in exhausted silence. The bioluminescent patterns had faded, but Marcus could still see afterimages when he closed his eyes. That was the bonding lock, Kyra said quietly. The final integration. 1 more peak and the cycle completes. Marcus checked a chronometer. 14 hours left in quarantine. They'd made it farther than he'd thought possible during those first desperate hours. How do you feel? He asked. Strange. My body knows it's almost over. The urgency is gone. She traced idle patterns on his chest, her claws fully retracted now. I can think clearly for the first time in days, and all I can think about is how much I've put you through. Stop. Flynn, I mean it. Stop apologizing. He caught her hand, held it. You didn't choose this. You didn't want it. You would have prevented it if you could. There's nothing to apologize for. Kyra was quiet for a long moment. My people have a saying. The one who holds you through the fire becomes part of your flame. It means the bonds forged in crisis are the strongest kind. Unbreakable. Sounds intense. We're an intense species. She smiled slightly. You'll figure that out if you insist on keeping me as a roommate. When I insist, stubborn, dramatic alien. They both laughed, and it felt good. Normal. Like they might actually survive this with their friendship intact. The door chimed again. This time it was a message on the console, not a voice. Marcus reached awkwardly, still maintaining contact with Kyra, and pulled up the screen. It was from Commander Patricia Webb, Station CO. Lieutenant Flynn, I've been briefed on your situation by Medical Officer Chen. I want you to know that your actions over the past 3 days reflect the highest standards of the service. You've demonstrated exceptional courage and compassion under circumstances that would break most people. When quarantine lifts, there will be no investigation, no incident report. Only a commendation for meritorious conduct. Well done, son. Webb out. Marcus stared at the message. Kaya read it over his shoulder. She called you son, Kyra said softly. Webb never calls anyone son. Marcus felt something loosen in his chest, relief he hadn't known he was holding. We're actually going to be okay. Your career won't suffer, neither will yours. Kyra pressed closer. I still want to do something for you after this is over. Something to make up for. You don't owe me anything. Then something to thank you. Marcus thought about it. Teach me. Teach you what? Your language, the real one, not the trade dialect. The patterns you were showing me during the peak. He met her eyes. If we're going to be bonded for the next few months anyway, I want to understand what I'm feeling, what you're broadcasting. Kyra's bioluminescence flickered with surprise. Then something warmer. That's not a small ask. Velify is notoriously difficult for non-natives. Good thing I have an excellent teacher living in my quarters. Our quarters, she corrected gently. Our quarters. They settled back into position, bodies aligned, waiting for the final peak. The station hummed around them. Outside, the solar flare had diminished to nothing more than background radiation. The universe was returning to normal. Inside Residential Unit 743, normal had been redefined entirely. Hour 68 arrived. Kyra's breathing changed, her pupils dilating one last time. Final peak, she whispered. This is it. Marcus held her close. Then let's finish this. The cycle's last demand crashed over them with surprising gentleness. No violence, no desperation. Just the slow, inevitable completion of a biological process that had nearly killed them both. Kyra's bioluminescence bloomed one final time, brilliant and beautiful, then gradually faded to a soft glow that settled into her baseline patterns. Her body relaxed completely. The fever broke. The tremors stopped. It was over. Flynn, she breathed. It worked. We actually made it. Marcus smiled against her hair. Told you we would, stubborn human, chromatic alien. Outside, the first all-clear sirens began to sound across the station. Hour 72 arrived with a soft chime and a hiss of magnetic locks disengaging throughout the residential deck. Marcus and Kyra didn't move immediately. They lay on the cushioned floor, still intertwined, listening to the sounds of doors opening and footsteps in corridors as the station came back to life. We should get up, Kyra said without conviction. Probably. Neither of them moved. The bioluminescent patterns on her skin had settled into gentle waves, peaceful and steady. Her temperature had normalized. The desperate edge that had defined the past 3 days was completely gone. How do you feel? Marcus asked. Alive, exhausted. Grateful. She lifted her head to look at him. Different? Different how? I can feel you. Your heartbeat. Your calm. It's like you're part of my sensory map now. She touched his chest. Is it the same for you? Marcus concentrated. There it was. Subtle but undeniable. Awareness of her presence that went beyond sight or touch. He knew she was tired but content. Relieved but slightly anxious about what came next. Yeah, he said. I feel it too. A knock on the door. Flynn? It's Chen? You two decent? Marcus looked down at himself. Shirtless, covered in healing scratches and bruises, wearing nothing but shorts. Kyra was in even less, her clothing having been sacrificed to the cycle's demands somewhere around hour 20. Give us 5 minutes, Doc. They dressed quickly, moving carefully around each other in the small space. Marcus pulled on a fresh uniform. Kyra found spare clothing in her locker. When she turned around, fully covered for the first time in days, it felt strangely wrong, like they'd lost something important. The cycle bond, Marcus realized. His instincts wanted contact maintained even though the medical necessity was gone. Kyra met his eyes. I feel it too. It'll fade. Give it time. Marcus opened the door. Chen stood in the corridor with a medical scanner, looking professional but concerned. His eyes widened slightly when he got a good look at them. You both look like you went 10 rounds with a cargo hauler. Feels about right, Marcus said. Chen ran the scanner over Kyra first. Vitals are stable. Neurochemical levels returning to baseline. No permanent damage. He switched to Marcus. You, on the other hand, have torn muscles, dehydration, minor blood loss, and bruising across 40% of your body. But I'm alive. Barely. Chen shook his head in disbelief. I've seen Velocity cycles managed in clinical settings with full medical teams. I've never heard of a single human sustaining someone through it alone for 72 hours. You're either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. Can't it be both? Kyra asked. Chen almost smiled. Report to Medical Bay in 2 hours. Both of you. We need to run comprehensive scans and document everything for the record. Not an investigation? Marcus asked. Commander's orders. This is medical documentation only. What happened here stays between us and the care team. Chen paused at the door. For what it's worth, Flynn, you did good. Really good. After he left, Marcus and Kyra stood in the middle of their quarters. The space felt different now. Smaller, more intimate. The neutral ground of casual roommates had become something else entirely. I should clean up, Kyra said, looking at the scattered cushions, empty water pouches, and general chaos of 3 days spent fighting for survival. We should clean up. They worked in companionable silence, restoring order. When everything was back in place, the quarters looked exactly like they had before the lockdown. But nothing was the same. Kyra sat on the couch. Marcus joined her, maintaining a careful distance. The bond will fade, she said again. In a few months, maybe less. We'll go back to normal. Will we? She looked at him. Do you want to? Marcus thought about the question. About 3 days of holding someone through their worst crisis. About learning to read another person so completely that words became unnecessary. About trust forged in circumstances that would break most people. No, he said honestly, I don't think I do. Kyra's bioluminescence flickered. Relief, joy, something deeper he didn't have words for yet. Good, she said quietly, because I don't either. They sat together as the station bustled back to full operation around them. Outside the viewport, repair crews were already working on the radiation shields. Life continued. Missions resumed. The universe moved forward. Inside Residential Unit 743, 2 people sat close but not touching, connected by something that transcended biology or regulation or species. Marcus felt the bond pulse gently between them. Not uncomfortable, not unwanted. Just there. A reminder that some fires didn't burn you. Some fires forged you into something stronger. So, he said eventually, about those language lessons? Kyra smiled, her eyes bright with amber light. First lesson starts now. The pattern for gratitude. She placed her hand over his heart. Her bioluminescence flared in a specific sequence, warm and deliberate. Marcus felt the meaning flow through him, clear as spoken words. Thank you for holding me through the fire. He covered her hand with his own. You're welcome. Always. No light, no pattern. just human words.